Hey everybody, Rosematter here, and welcome to my new Let's Play series, as voted by you in my community poll last week. It was a close one, but you guys want me to get back into Steins Gate, and it has been a while since I played the series. My original Steins Gate playthrough is like 4 years old at this point, so I was a little rusty in the story. So I did go back and I watched the ending of my playthrough, and also read some synopsis about like what happened in the original game. And from what I know of this game, it's like an alternate timeline of what happened in the original. So it's not like a sequel, it's not a prequel, it's like almost like something in between. So we're obviously going to be focusing on Rintaro and Kirisu. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into the world of Steins Gate. Hopefully they'll give me like at least a recap of what happened. So, but yes, anyway, hopefully you guys are excited for this. Without further ado, let's go ahead, let's play Steins Gate 0. Okay, so they're showing, so that guy was her father, right? He was jealous because yeah, he was the one who killed Kirisu. And that's what started this whole thing, was like us finding her body, sending that first email, and that is what sent us on the Alpha timeline. Oh my gosh, 2010. So long ago. The hatch opened. Bright light flooded my eyes. Where was I? My eyes narrowed. I could barely make out the summer's twilight sky. I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to disappear. But someone grabbed my arm and dragged me out. Ah! It's crazy seeing these characters again. Myri! I didn't have the energy to respond to my own nickname. I fell to the ground and wrapped my arms around myself. Yeah, they're jumping right into this. Like, you need to know what's going on to understand this. Myri ran to me and looked down, her face worried. But her kindness felt like nothing but a nuisance. Don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. Okay, so from what I remember is... so he was going back in time to stop Kurisu from being killed, but she still needed, like, he needed to believe that she was killed, so, like, he faked a whole thing, like, he put fake blood down. That way he was able to get to the Steins Gate timeline, because otherwise, like, in the Alpha and Beta, either Kirisu dies or Myri dies, but Steins Gate was a way where he was able to save both of them. But from what I've read, this is when he was trying to go back in time and save Kurisu. So this is obviously the one that didn't succeed, right? Like, he came back. Like, there was a time where he failed, and then he succeeded. So I think, yeah, the one time he accidentally killed her himself, right? Ah, and Suzuha. Oh, that's right. That's right. She's also his daughter. Daru ran to the door that led back inside the building. Stop it. Just get away from me. Leave me alone. I couldn't save her. In fact, yeah, I killed her myself. Right here 3 weeks ago. I killed her. I'm a murderer.
無駄だったんだ。何をやっても無駄だ。全部決まってしまっていることなんだよ。同じだ。真由里の時と同じなんだ。どれだけもがいたって結果は 同じになる。
No matter how many times I try, it will all converge back to the same result. The process doesn't matter. Whether you time travel or time leap, you can't go back and change the results of the past. I thought I understood that cruel truth, but now I was forced to realize it again, and in the worst possible way.
無駄だよ。無駄なんだ。何もかも無駄なんだよ。俺はやっぱりクリスを助けられないんだ。分かってた。分かってたんだ。こうなるって予想してたんだ。もう疲れた。ずっと休んでないんだ。だから。
Right? Man, Rintaro has been through it.
おかり、一体何が。
俺が殺した。殺してしまった。バカみたいだ。全部俺のせいだ。
マキセ・クリスをさ、刺し殺しちゃったんだ。殺した？嘘、そんな。でも安心して、まだもう一回分タイムトラベルはできる。
ほっといてくれ。俺のことなんか何度やったって結果は同じだ。
何言ってんの？諦めるつもり？オカリンおじさんの肩には何十億っていう人の命がかかってるんだよ。たった一回の失敗が何だって言うんだ。
I mean, he's failed more than once. He's failed so many times before this. Although with Mayuri, not with Kirisu. Okay, and then we've got all the tips. You know what? This actually might not be bad for me to read the tips again, to get myself... Oops. How do I get to the tips, though? There we go. Alright, tips. The world line. This term refers to an infinite number of possible worlds. However, these worlds do not exist in parallel. Only one exists at a given time. Everything that occurs along a world line from the past to the future has been predetermined. Thus, no matter how much you change the past along a single world line, the results will converge to the same outcome. So yeah, I watched videos to remind myself about like how the whole time travel things works, the different worlds and everything, but I still might get confused. So hopefully you guys can help me out and just be patient while I kind of get back into this world, because time travel stuff is always very confusing. That's the reality of this world. I learned that a long time ago.
こうなったらビンタしてでも気合い入れ直して。ダメだよ、無理強いするのは良くないよ。こんなボロボロになってるオカリン見てられないもん。でもさ、このままじゃ未来を変えられない。どうして未来のことをオカリン一人に押し付けるの？そんなの重すぎるよ。オカリンおじさんには世界の観測者としての能力があるからだよ。オカリンが望んだわけじゃないのに。それにもう一度やったってまたオカリンが傷つくだけだって思うな。
I can say I appreciate this about Steins Gate already, is I have a habit, because I don't speak Japanese, is I skip sometimes because I think they're done talking when they're not, but I love the fact that the text actually goes at the same speed as they're talking, so I know when the text is done that they're done speaking. I'm like, that's such a small little thing, but I really appreciate it.
未来のことを人一人で変えようなんてきっと無理なんだよ。だからそのためのシュタインズゲートで 気持ちはわかるよ。でもさ、私も未来をかけてここまで来てるんだよね。どっちにしろ2036年には戻れないんだ。そう簡単に諦めるつもりはないから。オカリンおじさん、一つだけ忠告しとく。このタイムマシンに残されてる燃料は有限なの。さっきは往復2回分しか残ってないって言ったけど、実はまだそれなりに余裕はある。それでも移動できる時間はおよそ344日分。片道のタイムトラベルだとしても、今から1年と経たないうちに7月28日には届かなくなる。覚えといて。その日になったらさ、私はたとえ一人でも飛ぶよ。
Someone was saying something to me, but I couldn't understand the words. I didn't want to listen to anything. I just wanted to sleep. If anyone deserves a sleep, a rest, it's this guy. Even before he got into time travel, he was not doing so well with that. He was just so obsessed with his work. Just let this all end. Just let me go.
おかりん、おかりん、ねえ、おかりん、もう頑張らなくてもいいからね。泣いてもいいんだよ、おかりん。マユシーはそばにいるからね、おかりん。
I don't know if Mayuri's words were the reason why, but the tears started to flow. I decided to forget everything. Ever since that day, I stopped going to the Future Gadget Lab. Alright, let's check that again. Okay, a lab in name only, it is actually a group of students who make strange inventions. Its founder, Rintaro Okabe, described it as a place where he could further his ambitions to overthrow the ruling structure of the world. To get there, head down Center Street from Akihabara Station. Then when you get to the Suhiro-cho intersection, take a left at Kuromaebashi Street, then head into the alleyway just in front of the next light, and you'll find an old multi-purpose building called the Ubiyama Building. It is on the second floor. Like, the amount of world building is unbelievable. Like, in the tips, it literally tells you, like, here are the instructions on how to get to this place that doesn't even exist. It's wild. Okay, so we've gone ahead in time. Right? We're ahead, not backwards. UPX, the new symbol of Akihabara, was located right in front of the station. It's just weird after all that the music is like all nice now. In the hall on the 4th floor, preparations had been going on all morning for the ATF Akihabara Techno Forum Convention. Universities and labs from both inside and outside the country would work together to put on special seminars and synopsis at irregular interventions. My school, Tokyo Denki University, was participating as part of its industrial collaboration efforts. Students were required to attend these seminars and submit reports to their instructors. I apologize, I'm going to be stopping this like every probably couple of minutes. First founded as the Denki School in 1907, in 1949 it became a college in Kanda, Tokyo. Denki University trains engineers and scientists to promote the healthy development of scientific technology. It was founded around the principle of practical study above all else, and its educational and research motto is "Technology is People." Because of the school's location, it was deeply involved in the development of Akihabara. Otherwise, they wouldn't get credit for their related classes. In addition, I was supposed to help one of the lecturers, Associate Professor Izaki. I had just gotten a list from the reception desk at the shared lobby. I was waiting to check off the names of students who were coming to the lectures. I'm guessing this probably isn't Rintaro. There was still some time before the seminar started, so the lobby was mostly empty. But then again, it could be. None of the students on the list were here yet. I was bored, but I couldn't do anything but wait. The old me never could have imagined doing anything like this, but impressing Izaki was part of my new goal in life. Victor Chandria University. That was my new goal. Izaki did a lot of joint research projects with them and knew a lot of people there. The best first step to getting there my brain could come up with was being his assistant. Also, this convention was holding another seminar by Victor Chandriya University after the one held this summer. Of course, that interested me too. Summer. Oh. Nope, it is Rintaro. Okay. So he's just like, is he just kind of going on with his life? He just decided like, yeah, I give up. So he still has the memories of Kurisu, obviously. An image of her, as she was then, flashed through my mind. I was trying to get to Victor Chandriya so that I could learn about the work that Kirisu Makise had been doing. I wanted to try and do it myself. Yeah, because she talked to, Suzuha was talking about, like, she's gonna go back if Rintaro doesn't do it, she's gonna do it herself. Of course, I wasn't a genius like Kurisu. I knew there was no way I would ever be able to do exactly what she did. And judging by the fact that he's talking in past tense of her, he didn't save her. But if I could do even 10% of it, maybe he's like, I'm going to continue on in her honor since I couldn't save her. I'll at least continue her research. Honestly, I'm amazed I recovered so well. I thought that to myself and chuckled just as a voice called to me from across the lobby. So yeah, he's dealing with like the aftermath of all that stuff that happened at the beginning. I looked up and saw a young girl approaching from the elevator hall. She was short and petite. Everything about her was small. I could kind of make out a few of the curves that don't appear until after puberty, so at least she wasn't in elementary school, but maybe middle school? For someone who has such a cute face, she clearly didn't care about her appearance. Alright, we got the new girl here. Is this going to be like our new girl sidekick to replace Kurisu? Her hair wasn't styled and it flowed down her back. Even I could tell her clothes weren't very fashionable.
ごめんなさい。スタッフルームってどこかしら？
ここは ATF のセミナー会場だけど。
Clearly not a place where a middle school girl belonged. She'd probably just come to the wrong place.
そんなの分かっているわ。何度同じ話を繰り返せば気が済むの？
いや、今初めて言ったんだけど。
私にとってはあなたで4回目よ。この場所に来てからね。
Irritated, she pulled a card out of her jacket. It was one of the IDs given out to an invited guests. Her name and the name of her workplace were written on the front.
Huh?
Maho Hiyajo? Victor Chandriya University, USA. Brain Science Institute.
ビクトル・コンドリア大学脳科学研究所
Okay, brain science, the field of study that researches animal brains, also called neuroscience. It investigates the brain from a number of perspectives, including biology, genetics, medicine, psychology, and electrical engineering. Alright, so maybe we'll be getting into more of it. They did go over it, I do remember briefly, like they talked about the, the brain and everything, and but they were focusing more on like physics and time travel, so maybe this is going to go more into psychology and the University of the Brain. Feel like she's going to be our sidekick. I looked at the card, and then at her, then back at the card, then I looked at her again. I finally realized.
あ、そういうことか。そのカード、どこに落ちてたんだ？拾ってくれたん。
その話も4回目よ。
She sighed and showed me another card. This one was a photo ID from Victor Chandriya University. It was the same ID I'd seen Kurisu holding before on another worldline. The photo on the card, yeah, that was definitely her.
Hiyajo Maho って読むの。私の名前、Hiyajo Maho。漢字でもローマ字でも誰も読めた試しがないから、先に言っとくわ。
Oh, did I say it right? Maybe I did. Probably not. I'm terrible with names, and she says that nobody can get her name right the first time anyway. Will she be an appropriate replacement for Kurisu? I really like her, so I don't know. It's sad to think that, like, she's not going to be in this game, or at least maybe there's going to be flashes of her. Maybe we can still save her, but it seems like she's being replaced.
ビクトル・コンドリア大学の
Oh, Chondria? I am so saying that wrong. Damn it. I'm just gonna call it Victor University.
寝ぼけるなら夜にして。大学に中学生がいるわけないでしょ。
それもそうだな。じゃあ飛び級か。
Unlike in Japan, it wasn't uncommon for Americans to skip grades. Kurisu had made it to university at age 17. But still, a girl this young working in a university lab?
一つ確認していいかしら。
おう。
あなた今、少なからず衝撃を受けてるわよね。こんな小さい子が信じられないかしら。
I mean, she might be working in brain studies, but I feel like you don't need to be super smart to understand that that's probably what he's thinking.
それとも、この年齢ですごいの方。
She got me. I mean, those would be the two most obvious things to think when you meet a middle schooler going to university. The girl, Maho Hiyajo, Maho, Maho, pointed to part of the idea with her slender fingers. Oh wait, date of birth 1989? So this takes place, so she's not, like, she just looks very young. Okay. She was born in 1989, and it was 2010, so...
21歳
Good, she's legal. That's pretty much what the game is just like. She looks very young, but we promise she's of age.
つまり立派な成人女性よ。中学生じゃないのよ。もちろん小学生でも幼稚園児でも。
And then she puffed out her chest. There wasn't much to see, but I could imagine her saying, "They look bigger when I'm not wearing clothes. They're huge. God damn it." Also the fact that he talked about, like, I could see, like, there was the beginnings of a curve, so she's not in elementary school. It's like, really? This is how we're introducing her? Okay.
何かしらその顔は。
いや悪かった。謝る。
I couldn't believe it. She was older than me. If Dara was here, he would be dancing around screaming, "Legal lolly for the win." Are we really? We're gonna look up the tip for the win. I know. Net slang used to express excitement about a positive event or experience, abbreviated FTW. God, that brings me back to late 2000s, early 2010s internet. I love it. It's very nostalgic.
まあいいわ。世界中どこへ行っても同じ目に遭ってるから。
そうだろうな。
何か言った？
いや別に。
Still, the Brain Science Institute? That's where Kurisu worked. Which means this person might know a lot about Kurisu. I held back the impulse to start badgering her with questions. I looked at the pamphlet with the seminar schedules. Victor's lecture was the last one for the day, and was clearly intended to be the biggest. Was this Maho Hiyajo girl going to give a lecture? Just like Kirisu had done at the summer convention. No, wait, that's wrong. That never happened. Kurisu Makise never gave any lectures over the summer. That happened in the Alpha Worldline. In the Worldline I inhabited before the summer convention. Okay, yeah, so we're in... This is the beta one, right? This is the beta line. Because in the Alpha one we saved her, and in the beta line she died. So we are... yeah.
君が今日登壇を？
いいえ、私は助手として来たの。あと通訳も兼ねてね。
I looked at the pamphlet again and saw the lecturer was a man named Alexis Leskinen. Alexis Leskinen, a professor at Victor University and the chief researcher of the Brain Science Institute.
テーマは人工知能革命か。面白そうだ。
時間があったらぜひ聞いてみてほしいわね。
そうするよ。あ、スタッフルームだったよな。
I led Maho over to the elevator hall and showed her where the staff room was.
ありがとう。
I had no reason to hang around her any further. I said goodbye and was just about to turn around. Just then, the elevator opened. A woman emerged. It won't be Kurisu, no. Oh, the instant I saw her, every hair on my body stood on end. Oh, shit. Mooka, yes, she worked with the Rounders. Oh, yes, oh, yes. Mooka Kiryu. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming. Calm down. This is the Beta World line. Mayuri's alive. Mooka's not going to kill her. Yeah, they had no reason to, right? Our eyes met. The eyes on the other side of her glasses were as dead as ever, and it was impossible to tell what she was thinking. I frantically averted my gaze before she realized something was wrong. She tilted her head for a second, but quickly lost interest in me and turned toward Maho.
ああ、雑誌社の方でしたよね。お約束通り取材を。
Even in this world line, Mooka still only spoke in faint whispers.
レスキネン教授はまだなんです。少しお待たせしてしまいますけど。はい。それまで私でよければシステムの概要でもお願いします。
She seems like the worst person to give an interview. Like, she's not giving anything. The two of them disappeared into the staff room. As I watched them leave, I took a deep breath. I tried to calm down, but it wasn't working.
Kiryu Moeka. もしかしてまたお前なのか?
It was a terrible feeling, like a cold finger tracing the wounds in my heart. That night, when the terrorist threat shut down all the trains in Akihabara. That awful night when I just knew something was going to happen.
ここでもまたお前が.
Or was I just imagining things? Was she just a magazine reporter now, instead of a CERN rounder? I vaguely remember, like, this, but it's good to get reacquainted with this. An unofficial group that works for CERN. It is, in theory, an independent group that does technology research. Rounders are deployed all over the world, and their exact numbers are unknown. Their real objective is to recover the IBN 5100s, the only machine capable of hacking CERN's hidden database, as well as crushing any attempts at time travel research around the world and taking the scientists back to work for CERN. They are, in essence, mercenaries who are capable of using force if necessary. Some of the members on the bottom rung do their work without ever meeting another rounder face to face. No, even if Mooka was a rounder, we had nothing to do with CERN anymore. CERN wouldn't be watching us. I took another deep breath, grabbed some of the anxiety meds in my pocket, and swallowed them down with some mineral water I'd brought ahead of time. It would take 15 minutes for them to kick in. Those 15 minutes were always pretty rough. I laughed at myself a little and sat down on one of the reception desk chairs. The table was filled with leaflets, pamphlets, and other things for the attendees. My eyes wandered to one of the pamphlets. Oh, what's that little, like, alert thing? I think it said something about a quick save. Oh, cool. Oh, let's check this out. Doo-doo-roo, Okarin, are things going okay with Mr. Seminar? Okay, I gotta remember this, too, that I can check this out. Yeah, no problem. I see, that's great. I can't wait to see what kind of seminar be. I also love looking at the old phones. Mayushi wishes she could have seen it, too. It may be a little too hard for you to follow. You're right. Okay, I don't want to get in your way. Bye. Oh, look at that. Oh, shit. Okay, so there's... Okay. Can we call anybody? Daru, Mayuri, Luca, Suzuha, Ferris, Yuki Amane. I don't remember who that is. Yuki Amane. Okay. All right, we'll pick that one. I love this. This is so cute. I like the frog. All right. Let's stop messing around with that. Nakabachi theory and the genealogy of pseudoscience. This pamphlet was for Professor Izaki's seminar. Nakabachi theory. A paper he'd announced in Russia. That paper held the key to creating a real time machine. That's right. On that day, July 28th, Nakabachi had stolen the paper from Kirisu, his own daughter, and left with it. I knew that. Only Nakabachi and I knew that. I flipped through the pamphlet. It was a brief introduction to the many forms of pseudoscience and fake scientific discoveries that had emerged since the start of the 20th century. On its own, it did make for interesting reading. And about the end of the pamphlet, Nakabachi theory was introduced as nothing more than another entry in that long list of fakes. So Dr. Nakabachi's time machine theory had been completely ignored by the academic world. All the glory, fame, and power he'd wanted so badly that he was willing to get rid of his own daughter, he didn't get any of it. And I'd heard rumors that after the announcement, he'd been imprisoned in a Russian lab. To make it even funnier, he thought he was getting VIP treatment. For a short time, there were essays and interviews in bogus academic journals. Even there, it was obvious it had all gone to his head. The ironic thing was that Nakabachi theory was completely correct and completely revolutionary. The Russian government was worried about it leaking, and the SVR was doing everything it could to keep it under wraps. Alright, SVR, the Service of Internal Reconnaissance of the Russian Federation, Russia's external intelligence agency. Its HQ is in Yasenova in southern Moscow. After the old Soviet Committee for State Security, KGB, was disbanded, the new SVR was modeled after the KGB's first directorate. There are other intelligence agencies in Russia as well, such as the Main Intelligence Directorates, GRU, and the Federal Security Service, FSB. Each of them has their own territory and specialization. But under the surface, there was a full-scale information war beginning over the paper. The time traveler from 2036, John Titor, had told me so, which meant it had to be true. So yeah, because he didn't go and save Kurisu, the World War III is going to start, right? Like, this is the beginning of the end. That's why John Titor, aka Suzuha, came back. In November 2000, a man appeared on an American message board claiming to be a time traveler from the year 2036. This became an internet phenomenon that inspired a storm of questions and debate. The man called himself John Titor and published partial pictures of the manual for his time machine, as well as an explanation for how it operated. He also made clear what would happen in the near future, how interfering with the timeline worked, the principles behind the multiverse and parallel worlds, as well as timelines and world lines. And then 4 months later, after his appearance, he left a final message saying he'd completed his mission and he would be returning to his world. Then he vanished for good. Was World War III really going to happen? There was no point in thinking about it. Just a little more before the drugs kicked in. I closed my eyes. So because Suzuha went back to her time, and she said, like, that was, there was only enough gas for that, or enough fuel, like, is he going to be able to save Kurisu, or is this just exploring the world where, like, we didn't save her? Several hours later, the convention was going well. After Professor Izaki's seminar, most of the students from my university went home, but I killed some time and came back. I wanted to hear the Victor lecture. I headed to the hall with plenty of time to spare and saw Maho Hiyajo coming from the staff room. She was with a very tall foreigner. Was that Alexis Leskinen? It didn't seem like an American name, but maybe he was an immigrant like Kurisu, or at least descended from one. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the looks on their faces were so serious I couldn't help but listen. Since they were both speaking in English, I could barely make out any of it, but I could tell from their voices it wasn't a pleasant chat. Wait, did I just hear the word Makise? I hated the fact I couldn't speak English. If I'd known this was going to happen, I would have gone to an English school. The two of them walked into the waiting room for lectures. It was located right next to the UPX theater. I put together the few fragments I was able to understand. Fire at Kurisu's house. Mrs. Makise is all right. Robbery. The police called off the investigation. Why was the FBI there? It doesn't make sense. Wow. I mean, for him saying he's got very basic English, that's quite impressive. The FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, an American police organization. It is attached to the Department of Justice and handles crimes that occur on American soil. There are approximately 30,000 people who work for the FBI. When crimes take place involving a wide area in multiple states, the FBI investigates under federal law. Okay, Mrs. Makise, obviously that's the mother. Robbery. So maybe there was like some more research that somebody stole that she had hidden away. I think that's what they were saying. Kurisu's house? Do they mean where she lived in America? Her mother should still live in America. Is that where the fire was? And words like robbery and the investigation was called off? I really wanted to know more. I stood there and worried until it was time for the lecture to begin. With nothing else to do, I went inside the theater. I could tell earlier by looking at the size of the crowds going inside, but it was a very high-energy crowd. The atmosphere was clearly different than Izaki's seminar, which was mostly students there for credit. The place was nearly full with a crowd of scientists and people who wanted to learn about cutting-edge technology. Victor Tondria's researchers had published a slate of papers in Science recently and had gotten a lot of media attention. Maybe that was why. Were there any empty seats? I found a single open seat at the edge. Oh, that was weird. When I looked at who was sitting there, I moaned. Or next to it. It's gotta be Mooka. Yep. You again? Mooka Kiryu was there. She was speaking to no one, just typing endlessly into her phone. I'd once named her Shining Finger because of her incredible typing speed. She was as fast as ever. Yeah, you gotta be to type on one of those phones where you have to, like, press the button 3 times to be able to get certain characters. Who is she talking to? I didn't even want to imagine. I quickly turned away and looked for another seat. Dr. Leskinen reached the podium almost the exact... There was a huge wave of applause. But when they saw the tiny little girl come up next to him, the applause faded into confused murmurs. Maho must have expected this. Her expression didn't change in the slightest as she stood next to the professor. In fact, when she took the microphone from the professor and looked around the theater, she looked like she belonged there.
Ladies and gentlemen.
First, Dr. Leskinen began to speak in English. When he made eye contact with Maho, she began to interpret.
Thank you for attending.
皆さん、本日は私のセミナーに集まってくださって感謝します。ビクトル・コンドリア大学脳科学研究所のアレクシス・レスキネンです。専門は脳信号処理システムおよび人工知能理論になります。そして私は助手のヒヤジョ真帆です。同じく脳科学研究所で教授の指導に沿って研究をしています。よろしく。
The audience started murmuring again. That was the same way I responded when I met her. Well, that'll happen, yeah.
では早速ですが、私たちの最先端研究の一端をご紹介します。テーマは人工知能革命としましたが、これからデモンストレーションするシステムはおそらく皆さんの想像を超えたものではないかと思っています。
Okay, artificial intelligence, often shortened to AI. There have been many different definitions for the word since its creation. For example, some use it to refer to control systems with self-directed learning capabilities, while others use it to refer to programs whose whose thought routines mirror humans. Okay, so is AI, is that going to be like before it was time travel? With this one, it's going to be AI as the focus? I mean, if the time machine never was created, then yeah, like where's this story going to go? Dr. Leskinen stood in front of the laptop that had been placed on the podium and started to type.
このパソコンですが、研究所のスーパーコンピューターの一つと接続されています。あ、まだプロジェクターには映さないで。
One of the staffers was about to display the laptop screen on the front projector. Some kind of important program must have been booting up because Maho stopped them.
すみません、まだ開発途中なんです。非常に美的センスのないプログラムが画面いっぱいに溢れ返っています。こんなチープなプログラムを見られるのは恥ずかしい。裸を見られるよりもね。この中にエンジニアの方がいるなら理解していただけますよね。
Some of the audience got the professor's joke and laughed.
起動するまでの間、このシステム全体の概略を説明しましょう。
There was another projector in the center of the stage. A diagram appeared on its screen. And at the top of the diagram was a Japanese translation for the general audience. An analysis of neural pulse signals relating to memories stored in the temporal lobe. Okay, we got a couple of tips here. Let's check those out. Nerve pulse, an electrical signal that travels through a human's nerve cells. It is used to quickly spread information between cells. And the temporal cortex, a part of the cerebrum located at the side of the brain, it controls memory, judgment, emotional restraint, hearing, and more. It is also used for accessing the hippocampus, which is on the edge of the cerebrum. I knew that title well. In fact, I was sure I could never forget it. It was the title of an essay written by a 17-year-old genius and published in Science. She had completely analyzed the nerve impulse patterns that govern human memory and used that to digitize the memories themselves into data. And she had used that to invent the time leap machine right in front of my eyes. So did they steal her information, or is it because that she was going to that university that anything that she creates while she's there basically becomes the property of the university, so they could just continue on with her research? Though none of that had actually happened anymore.
Science 誌に掲載されたので、ご存知の方もいるでしょう。これは私たち
Oh, that's why they're talking about Kurisu earlier.
天才的な日本人研究者によって提唱され、完成されたものです。人間の記憶は大脳皮質、とりわけ側頭葉に記録されます。いわゆるフラッシュメモリみたいなもの。
I'm getting flashbacks to going to school learning about this stuff. Cerebral cortex, the gray-colored external layer of the human brain. It is only a few millimeters thick, but consists of over 10 billion neurons in countless layers. The central core governing sensation, movement, and mental activity. Different parts handle different functions.
そのメモリに記憶を書き込んだり、読み出したりするのが側頭葉にある海馬傍回という部位になります。
This first episode is just going to be so many tips as they're going over this stuff in their lecture. The hippocampal gyrus is found on the outside edge of the hippocampus. It is the part of the brain that controls memories and spatial recognition. It is responsible for spatial processing as well as the sensation of being familiar with a situation or place. It plays an important role in memory encoding and retrieval. This all feels like this is going to be very important to the story. Dr. Leskinen pointed to the diagrams of the brain and hippocampus on the screen.
脳はニューロンと呼ばれる細胞の間を電気信号が伝わっていくことで働いています。
Neuron, also referred to as nerve cells, cells specialized for information processing. Electrical pulses flow through these cells to share various types of information, making them a form of transmission mechanism.
記憶というのも実はこういった電気信号の伝わりの一つなのです。その働きを制御しているのが海馬傍回と言ってもいいでしょう。つまり電気信号が海馬傍回を出入りすることで記憶は作られていくんですね。そこでマキセ・クリスはこの論文を書いた
Oh, was Maho close to her at all? Maybe she admired her?
マキセ研究員は考えました。海馬傍回を通る電気信号が
Yeah,
信
she's
号のパターンと大脳皮質の
yeah, she's having issues as soon as Kirisu is brought up. Maho started to have trouble with her interpreting. She was getting confused. No matter how good you were with languages, interpreting for a long period of time had to be difficult. I'd once read an article on the internet that said even a professional can't do it for more than 20 minutes. International conferences and live broadcasts from overseas were actually handled by a team of people switching off. Interesting, I didn't know that. That is a lot of strain on the brain, I can imagine, of having to listen to something and then have to immediately say it back in a different language. Like, it's hard enough to repeat what somebody's saying for a long period of time and then having to, like, switch your brain. Or maybe Was she having trouble because Kurisu's name came up? Dr. Leskinen saw she was having trouble and cut himself off.
すみません。マキセ研究員は海馬妨害を出入りする電気信号のパターンに着目しました。そのパターンが大脳皮質のどの記憶と対応しているのか解析を行って完全なデータを得たのです。これによって記憶という曖昧でアナログなものを電気信号のパターンの組み合わせというデジタルのものに変換する基礎理論が確立されたのです。
Right? That is, if I remember correctly, like she's able to use the time leap machine. And it was also the thing with like the D-mail and like how you were able to remember things. Like I know that Rintaro had the whole like reading Steiner where he was able to remember the events but nobody else was, but Kurisu seemed to have some memories of things as well.
これがサイエンス誌に掲載された彼女の論文です。そして現在私たちのチームはその理論をもとに人間の記憶をデジタルデータとして取得するシステムを開発しています。
A wave of whispers swept across the theater.
それはすなわち人間の記憶をコンピューターに保存しそれを活用するシステムということになります。
The whispers turned into a low roar. I see. So even after her death, Kurisu's research was being carried on. Of course, maybe it was natural it would be. That was the basic theory for time leaping, which I had proved myself, even if I could never prove it to anyone else in the Alpha worldline. My memories had been turned into data and stored on a computer. There's no doubt about that. And what Dr. Leskinen was talking about right now was the basic technology required for that process.
現在、私たちが行っているプロジェクトは主に2つです。1つは医療分野への応用です。
The slide on the projector changed.
こちらは精神生理学研究所と共同で行っているプロジェクトです。コンピューターに保存した記憶データを海馬妨害を通して再び元の脳に書き戻すというもので
Incredible.
Someone who looked like a grad student in the front row shouted. Dr. Leskinen didn't seem particularly put off by the interruption. Maho continued her interpretation.
信じがたいですか。その気持ちは理解できます。私も皆さんの立場であればそう言ったでしょう。しかし、この研究に私たちは手応えを感じています。これが実用化できればどんなに素晴らしいことでしょう。例えば、老化による記憶障害、あとはアルツハイマーなど、そうしたものへの対処療法が期待できます。
Symptomatic therapy, treatment intended not to cure the cause of a disease, but to alleviate its symptoms and relieve pain. Painkillers and fever reducers are examples of symptomatic therapy.
患者の記憶をデータとして自動的にバックアップしていくのです。記憶が失われたとしても、その都度 PC にアクセスし、脳内にデータを再インストールすることが可能です。それによって忘却の進行を食い止められるのではないか。私たちはそう考えています。最終的には海馬妨害から PC 内の記憶データに常時アクセスできるようになるでしょう。そうすれば脳機能が失われた状態、例えば脳が激しく損傷したり萎縮してしまった場合などですが、そのような状態でも変わらず脳機能を維持できます。あたかも外部ストレージと同じように。
External storage, a data storage unit that can be detached from a computer or cell phone or other device or electronic device. Some examples include hard drives and flash memories. This is definitely like bringing me back to the original one where like Kurisu, she was giving that talk, and it was the same thing. It was like a lot of information, a lot of big ideas, a lot of things to try and remember. A strange feeling gripped the hall. Part of it was shock and the feeling that they were witnessing the announcement of an incredible technology. Part of it was skepticism that a system like this could ever actually work. Part of it was revulsion at the idea of playing around with a human brain like that. An excitement born of all these things passed from one member of the crowd to another. Dr. Leskinen raised his hand to encourage questioners.
どうやら2つ目のプロジェクトをお話しする前に質問を受け付けないといけないようですね。
I'll answer as many as I can. Go ahead.
できる範囲でお答えします。どうぞ。
Many hands were raised. I could tell that there was a wide age range of people interested. Both young and old were raising their hands. Dr. Leskinen pointed to a questioner. This was the first question. Sampling would be required when digitizing analog memories. Does that mean any information would be lost? Sampling is the act of taking data at regular intervals. My professor nodded as he listened to the question in Japanese and began to respond in English when the speaker finished. Maybe he was able to understand Japanese, if not speak it.
その質問を言い換えると、オーケストラの生演奏を WAV のデータに保存する際、生演奏のすべてを完璧に記録することはできないと。確かにその懸念はあります。現在の研究で最も困難な問題の一つです。脳内のネットワークが神経伝達物質のオンオフだけで、つまり二進数的にデータのやり取りをしているのであれば簡単な問題でした。それはデジタルデータと同じことだからです。しかし実際には伝達物質や電気信号は脳内でアナログ的に変化することが分かっています。この問題に関しては今のところより高いサンプリングレートでデータをサンプルする方法しか手段を持っていません。音楽の話で言えば 44.1kHz よりも 48kHz、 48kHz よりも 96kHz でサンプリングするといった具合です。それによってデジタルでありながらアナログデータに近い情報を得ようとしています。
Little by little, the mood in the room was turning to disappointment. People were beginning to wonder if this was just a pretty theory that wouldn't work in reality. More questions came. All of the questioners were skeptical of the professor's theory, and many of them seemed to be outright challenging him. I started to get upset. This was Dr. Leskinen's research, but it was also Kirisu's. I knew better than anyone it worked, and the sight of so many people refusing to give it a chance infuriated me. Were these people really scientists? I tried to keep myself under control and looked back towards the podium. Was she mad? She certainly looked disappointed. I feel like she did. Maybe Kurisu took her on as like a... Although, were they... Kurisu, how old was she? She was 18, right? So that means that, depending on when they went to school, so she was 17, I think, when she went. So that means that she was actually older. So maybe they became friends. Dr. Leskinen was very polite with the rude questioners, acknowledging the problems with the theory. She was very different. Her anger was starting to seep into her interpreting too. Oh shit, she's just gonna go off on the audience. I felt a kind of kinship with her. Like maybe two people who admired Kurisu gonna come together and work together in some way. Maybe somehow get the time machine working and bring her back. The question and answer session continued.
デジタルデータを脳に書き戻すなんて絶対に不可能だ。正気の沙汰ではない。サイエンス誌に掲載されたあの論文も読みましたが、にわかには信じられない。ましてや、筆頭著者が若干17歳の女性。
Oh no, it was just a 17-year-old. Oh god, either Maho or Rintaro's gonna snap. That was the one thing I couldn't ignore.
あなたね。
Oh, Maho. Yeah, there we go. The two people on the stage and the entire audience all turned toward me at once.
やってみもしないで何がわかるって言うんだ。最初は無理だと思われてた技術なんてこの世にいくらでもあるじゃないか。
I like that Rintaro in this one, he's all dressed in black, whereas before he was in white. It was like before he was like hopeful, the mad scientist, and now it's almost like he's dressed for a funeral. It's like he's in mourning of Kurisu. Just a very simple change, but I don't know. I'm sure that's what they were going for with this. Or maybe this is like his dark age.
でもそれを克服した研究者がいたからこそ今があるんだろう。
This is probably going to appeal Maho to be like, ah, I like this guy actually. Let's work together.
ただ批判するだけじゃ何も生まれない。
The whole theater went silent, but I didn't regret standing up.
あなた。
On the stage, Maho was staring at me in shock. And as for Dr. Leskinen, I saw a flash of white teeth as our eyes met. I feel like maybe they'll all get along, because they all knew Kirisu, they all respected her, obviously. He started to applaud. Why was he applauding? That just makes things embarrassing.
素晴らしい。彼はなかなか大したやつだ。ですって。
Maho translated the professor's words for me to hear.
ただし、科学者たるもの常に冷静でなければいけない。大声で怒鳴っていいのは実験が成功した時の We did it それだけで十分だそうですよ。
すみません。
I lowered my head and sat down. I thought I was calm, but I guess I let my emotions get away from me. I hadn't grown up at all in the past 6 months. If Kurisu was here, she'd make fun of me again. I could feel the rest of the audience staring at me coldly. It hurt. If I could have left, I would have wanted to, but I was too interested to hear the rest of Dr. Leskinen's talk to move.
それでは皆さん、そろそろ次に。でも、その前に勇敢な彼に拍手をお願いします。
No, no, please no.
彼のような挑戦者こそが科学を進歩させ、あっと驚くような理論を作り上げるのです。彼ならきっと第3のアインシュタインになれるかもしれませんね。
Wait, third Einstein? Hold up. Albert Einstein, a German Jew known as the father of modern physics, he developed many important theories, including the theory of general relativity and the theory of special relativity, the winner of the 1921 Nobel Prize in Physics. So who does he think is the second Einstein? Them? Oh.
ちなみに第2のアインシュタインはここにいるちょっと小さい私の助手。
Oh, that's cute. But she's like, do you have to call me little though?
変なこと言うのはやめてください、教授。
The audience chuckled. Sheesh.
さて、ここで私はしばらく通訳をお休みさせていただきます。これから私よりも優秀な通訳が登場します。これが私たちのチームが今最も力を入れている2つ目のプロジェクト。アマデウスシステムです。
Oh, there it is, AI. When she finished speaking, Maho walked to the back of the stage. At Dr. Leskinen's signal, the PC screen was displayed on the projector. And then I heard a voice.
皆さん、初めてお目にかかります。
The murmuring got louder than before. But it felt more uncertain than surprised. On the screen, I could see a detailed 3D model of Maho, the girl who'd just been interpreting.
ちなみにこれは映画などで有名なドリンクワークススタジオに作成してもらったモデルです。
DrinkWorks Studio, an American CG movie production company. Maho Hiyajo chimed in from the back of the stage.
声については私のボイスサンプルをデータベースにして 日本の山名が作ってくれました。
Alright, let's check the other tip. Yamana, an instrument maker that was founded in the 19th century. In the 2000s, they began to develop and sell artificial voice software for DTM, desktop music software for PCs. Like, once again, just the amount of world building in this is incredible. Like, you would think that maybe some of these things could be actual, like, studios or companies, but, like, most of it, they just made up, and they go into so much detail about them. This was CG? It sure looked real to me. The professor said something into the laptop's microphone, and then the 3D model of Maho on the screen opened its mouth.
私はヒヤジョマホです。正確に言うなら、78時間22分前のヒヤジョマホから派生した存在ということになります。
If you listened carefully, you might be able to hear something slightly off, but it sounded far more human than any artificial voice I'd ever heard. And it's funny, when did this game come out? A while ago, right? And yet this AI stuff, it feels like this is more relevant than ever. I feel like we're even closer to this, and it's kind of scary. I don't know how you guys feel about AI. It freaks me out. I'm not gonna lie.
先ほどから皆さんの質問を聞かせていただいていました。教授はどうして私を早く紹介しないのかと、とてももどかしく思っていましたよ。以前から感じていましたが、どうも教授は人が悪いようですね。まったくだわ。
The Maho Hiyajo on the screen spoke with a slightly irritated expression, and the Maho Hiyajo by the wall nodded in agreement. Dr. Leskinen simply smiled. What was going on here? What part of this was their biggest project? The rest of the audience didn't seem to have any more of a clue than I did.
皆さんの多くは疑問に思っています。人間の記憶をデータとして取り出したり、それを保存したり、さらにはそのデータを活用したり。
Oh, is it like we've already done it? Surprise!
そんなことが本当に可能なのかと。それでは私は一体何でしょうか。私は78時間23分前のヒヤジョマホの脳内から取り出された記憶を持ち、そのデータをベースにして動いているのです。
What did she just say? The professor said something else in rapid English and asked the Maho on screen to translate it. But she, if she was the right word, hesitated and went silent. I looked at the real Maho and she was responding exactly the same way.
教授、今のは。教授、今の発言はセクシャルハラスメントとして大学に訴えてもいいでしょうか。
Dr. Leskinen laughed cheerfully and responded to her. The conversation was in quick English, and over half the audience couldn't understand it. The real Maho sighed and took back the microphone.
教授はですね、私に対して、いえ、私の記憶で動作しているこのアマデウスに対して質問に答えてごらんと言いました。いつ頃までパパとお風呂に入っていたかとか。
Oh god, is he like a secret creeper? Or is it just to show that the AI can respond with different emotions?
初恋はいつだったかとか、何でも答えられるだろうと。もうそれ以上通訳しなくていいわ。恥ずかしいからやめてくれないかしら。私はそういう質問には一切答えないわよ。
The professor said something else, and the Maho on the screen groaned and turned away.
クレジットカードの番号なんてもっと言えません。あと、1週間前に着ていたパジャマの色なんて覚えてるわけないです。
What was this? It was so natural I couldn't tell at first, but this was something unbelievable, wasn't it? It felt very different than a typical AI, I could tell that much. It wasn't answering the questions it was given. Oh, it was showing like the AI can... Oh yeah, the AI can refuse to do things it doesn't feel comfortable with. Yeah, that's a pretty big advancement, right? And because they were embarrassing. Was it programmed to respond like that to certain questions for the purpose of this demonstration? It was possible, that's all it was, but if that conversation wasn't programmed in advance, the rest of the crowd seemed to reach the same conclusion I did, and the whispers started to turn to surprised murmurs. 何をしたいのか理解はできるけど、とにかく恥ずかしいわ。 A copy of Maho was complaining to the original. It felt like I was watching a pair of twin sisters talking.
いたずらな子供ではなく、レスキネン教授が面白がってなかなか説明してくれないので、代わりに私がお話しします。
Maho walked back to the professor.
皆さん、もうお分かりかと思いますが、アマデウスは自分が話していいこととそうでないこと、あるいは話したいことと話したくないことを自ら判断して喋っています。
That is terrifying. I hate that. Oh, AI that can like think for itself? No, don't like that.
私たちはアマデウスにそういったプログラムを一切施していません。
I knew it.
彼女は与えられた私の記憶からそれを独自に判断し、自律的にそういう行動をとっているのです。
The Maho on screen suddenly took over for her.
そしてこれは先ほどの医療分野への応用とは方向性が真逆になってしまい、研究所内でもずっと議論が交わされていることですが、私は不必要な情報をいつの間にか忘れてしまうというか、記憶の引き出しから出してこられなくなるのです。皆さんと同じようにです。例えば1週間前に着ていたパジャマの色、確かにそれを知っていたはずなのに今は思い出せません。
Oh, it's because like Maho, the actual Maho doesn't remember, so the AI doesn't either?
そのような情報は生存していく上で必要がないからです。これも皆さんと同じです。
Yeah, so it's not just like a database where they can just store all the memories and they remember it forever.
このようにアマデウスは記憶のインプットやアウトプットが人間のそれと非常に近いのです。これは私たちも驚くべき結果として研究を重ねている最中で、まだ詳しくは解明されていません。
As Maho finished up, Dr. Leskinen took the microphone back. She resumed interpreting as he continued the lecture.
さらに私たちを驚かせたのは、アマデウスが意図して嘘をつくということ。
Oh no, an AI that can lie to you.
何らかのトラブルやミスではなく、
Nope.
わざとそうするのです。
I hate that.
嘘は人間が他人とコミュニケーションを取る上での一つの手法です。アマデウスもインプットされた記憶を自律的に検討し、必要であれば自分や他人のために平気で嘘をつきます。教授、誤解を招くような言い方はやめてください。嘘をつくのに平気なことなんてありません。私だって両親が咎めます。
I'm so sorry, Anne.
Dr. Leskinen cut off. He seemed to be hesitating. Maho didn't seem especially surprised by this. Maybe she knew the reason. But in the moment passed, and the professor continued. And Maho translated his words like there was nothing shocking about them at all.
このような検証を続けていくことで、最終的に私たちは
For one, we believe it's possible
ア
for
マデウス
Amadeus
に
to eventually
人
possess
間
a
と
mind
同
of
様の
its
魂を
own
宿すことができるのではないかと考えています。
I was stunned. A soul? Should one of the leading brain scientists in the world really be using a word with such a vague definition?
In other words, true
これこそ
artificial intelligence.
本当の意味での人工知能ということになります。
The whole hall got very quiet, and it was sheer chaos for a while after that as everyone tried to debate their own personal theories with Dr. Leskinen at once. It was thanks to Izaki I was able to get into the reception held after the ATF was over. They told me there was a dress code, so I went all the way back to my parents' house to get a suit to change into. At first, all that effort paid off as Izaki introduced me to some of the country's top researchers. Oh gosh, Riken, Joxa, jeez, okay. Let's check all these out. That's quite a bit coming at me here. So the Institute of Material Structure Science, a lab at the High Energy Accelerator Research Organization, KEK, located in Tsukuba, Ibaraki. It primarily works in using Electron accelerators to investigate the structure and properties of matter. JAXA, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, the National Aerospace Agency of Japan, an independent administrative agency formed in October 2003 by uniting the Institute of Space and Aeronautical Science, the National Aerospace Laboratory, and the National Space Development Agency. It primarily does space and aeronautical research. Its headquarters is located at the Aerospace Center in Chofu, Tokyo, and it has other space centers and observatories located all through the country, such as Usada in Nagano. Sorry, guys. It's just so much information taken. I trip over it a lot, especially with a lot of Japanese words. Sukada in Ibaraki and Sagamihara in Kanagawa. It also has Japan's only 2 rocket launch pads, located in Uchinura and Tanagashima in Kagoshima. As of March 2010, it employs around 1,500 people. And Riken, the Institute of Physical and Chemical Research, founded in 1917, it is Japan's only general national sciences institute. Research at Riken covers a variety of fields like physics, engineering, chemistry, computational science, biology, and medicine. Its base is located in Wako City, Saitama. There are other labs in Hyogo, Kanagawa, and other locations in Japan. Riken also has research centers in America, England, and other countries. Oh my gosh, what a mouthful. But before long, Izaki ran off to suck up some university professor. Suck up university. Wow, it's amazing the difference one word can make. Suck up to a university professor. And I was left completely abandoned. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. Daru, I can't believe... Oh, shoot. I didn't realize that there was other options here. Like, okay. I can't believe you get to go to a fancy party. Die in a fire, Mr. Fancy Pants. All the food here looks good. There's nobody to talk to and I'm bored. You could have helped too, you know. Let's go with all the food looks so good just to rub it in his face. Bring me back a doggy bag. Hell no, I can't do that. You can do what you set your mind to. There's no limit but the vast blue sky. I can come get it right now if you want me to. Are you that hungry? Oh, fine, okay, I'll get you something. But I refuse. Jealous? My own personal target, Dr. Leskinen, was surrounded by a bunch of famous scientists. It didn't feel like a mere student would be welcome, but I'm sure Maho will get us a meeting with him because she probably respects me for sticking up for them. And so all I did was stand around and eat from the buffet by the wall. To be honest, I couldn't tell if the food was any good or not. Whenever my glass got empty, a smiling waiter was always around to fill it up again, so I found myself drinking more than I intended. Uh-oh. My stomach was already so full it hurt. The whole place felt like it was another world. The exact moment I spoke, I heard a girl next to me say the exact same thing. Surprised, I looked over at her. Our eyes met. What was a middle school girl doing here? And then a moment later I realized it was Maho. She was wearing the exact same outfit she'd been wearing during the lecture. A lab coat in a place like this? It's just what the old me would have done. Maho was clearly out of place. Why? Because she was still wearing her lab coat. I couldn't help but ask. She was sure she had, but she hadn't. And that's why she was standing in the corner, trying not to attract attention. Okay, so it's a little bit of a space case, very smart, but...
Okabe Rintaro です。東京電機大学の学生で、伊崎ゼミで勉強してます。
I handed her one of the business cards I'd thrown together after Izaki told me I needed them. She grabbed one of her own out of a stack and carelessly put it in my hands. That was a huge help. I looked at the card and saw the pronunciation of her name was written in unusually large letters. That was probably because of how people kept screwing it up.
すべて日本人よ。DNA は生粋のジャパニーズ。
Oh gosh, DNA. We know what DNA is. We're gonna skip that. I'm not reading all that, sorry. And then the conversation stopped. I'm a terrible conversationalist, honestly. The old me would have gone full... Oh my gosh, it's been a while. Oh my gosh, how do I pronounce it again? Chunibyo? Chunbyo. And started ranting about conspiracies and magic powers, whether the other person cared or not, but you can't really call that a conversation. He really has matured in 6 months, and by matured, it's probably just he's so depressed he can't even put on the mad scientist act. Literally 8th grader's disease. This term refers to the slightly unusual actions and speech patterns commonly used by Japanese boys undergoing puberty. It can also be used as a pejorative term towards people who left puberty a long time ago but still say highly embarrassing things as if they were still kids. Chunbyo refers to someone who performs antisocial, misanthropic, or delusional actions or makes statements in an attempt to make themselves seem like a grown-up. While the speaker may think they're really cool from the perspective of an adult, they look ridiculous. Chunbyo can be broken down further into categories, one of which is the Evil Eye Chunbyo, which seems convinced he has a special anime power or backstory. Strictly speaking, Okarin falls into this category. We just call that here, it's just middle schoolers being cringe. I love that there's an actual phrase for it. I had no idea what to say to somebody I'd never met before. I'd been working at becoming a real adult, even buying and studying men's magazines, but none of it really helped. Without anything to talk about, I looked over to Dr. Leskinen. He seemed to be giving a lecture on neurons to a bunch of scientists.
今日はすまなかったな。
何が？
いや、セミナーの途中で邪魔を。
ああ、あれね。気にすることないわ。あなたが声を上げなかったら、多分私が同じことをしていたから。
Alright, let's talk about Kurisu, how you guys know her.
いいのか、そんなこと言って。教授が言ってたじゃないか。科学者たるもの、常に冷静にって。
今のは科学者としての発言じゃないわ。だから構わないのよ。
It must have really ticked her off because she grabbed a cocktail from a passing waiter and gulped it down. Her cheeks turned a pretty shade of pink for an instant, but no longer. She might have had a high alcohol tolerance.
だけど、やっぱり良くないわね。反省する。ああいう批判は言い方こそ悪いけれど、それでも事実には違いないんだもの。私たちの研究がまだ無謀の域から出ていないと言われれば、確かにその通りよ。
そうなのか。
取り組まなくてはいけない課題が山積みだわ。さっきセミナーで話した以上にね。例えば記憶データを元の脳に書き戻すことができても、それを脳が利用できなければ何の意味もないの。記憶があっても思い出せない状態、つまり記憶喪失の脳と同じになってしまう。
As Maho spoke, I remembered all the lectures and theories Kurisu had given me when she was making the time leap machine.
確か人間が記憶にアクセスしようとするときは前頭葉から側頭葉へ信号が行くんだったよな。
Frontal lobe is a part of the cerebrum located at the front of the brain. It controls thought, will, action, movement, creativity, and more. The frontal lobe can be further divided by location into the prefrontal cortex, motor cortex, and premotor cortex. Oh, here we go. More tips. Top-down memory search signals nerve signals in the cerebrum that are sent from the frontal lobe to the temporal lobe during memory retrieval. God, I remember studying this in university. Ugh, it's like I've forgotten all of it. This was so long ago. So I'm relearning some things. Whether I retain that information, well, I mean, we can go into a whole thing about memory retrieval right now and how, like, my brain... and how my brain cannot access it. And then I started to talk, remembering what Kirisu had told me about her theories as I went. When I used specialized terminology whose meanings I barely remembered, Maho would tell me what they were.
で最後に側頭葉に記憶を書き戻す過程で一緒にコピーした疑似パルスを前頭葉の方に送り込めば記憶検索信号はちゃんと働くと思う。
あなたそれを自分で導き出したの？
Okay, this is probably where he's gonna talk about Kurisu, right? Please let them finally like have that moment where like, oh shit, we both knew her.
ああ、
Except the thing, in this world, he never really met her, right? Like she died before they never had any of these conversations, right? In the beta timeline. He found her dead. Like they had a very brief interaction, but then he found her dead afterwards, I'm pretty sure. Maho looked back at the business card I'd given her.
脳科学専攻じゃないわね。ということは誰かに？それとも論文で？うん、それはないわ。まだ論文にはまとめられてなかったはず。
Okay, so she's like, how do you know this stuff?
何かおかしいこと言ったか、俺。
Oh, like, so he knows some stuff that he shouldn't.
そうじゃなくて、私の後輩がね、全く同じ理論を提唱していたことがあるのよ。どのスタッフもずっと懐疑的だったけど、彼女だけは絶対に証明できるって言い張っていたわ。
Okay, I wonder if he can talk a whole thing about, like, she'll believe it if he talks about, like, the time looping and the time machine and how he met Kurisu.
結局、実証試験に進む前に、彼女はいなくなっちゃったんだけど。
それは。
Should I tell her? Should I tell her about me and Kurisu? In this world line, there's almost no connection between me and Kurisu.
どうしたの
Oh, can I make decisions? Oh, no, okay, he's gonna do it. But I know that there's multiple endings of this, so I know with the previous game there was the D-mail. That is what I did to make my decisions. But there's no D-mail in this world, so if I wanted to follow my dreams, I needed to act.
実はこの理論、クリスからレクチャーされた。
え、今なんて？
マキセ・クリスが教えてくれたんだよ。
クリスがあなたに？いつ？どうして？
彼女がこっちに留学してた時だ。友達になってこういう話をよくした。
Of course, that was a lie. Kirisu and I became friends in the Alpha world line, not this one. But a small lie like this was probably okay.
そうだったの。あのクリスが。ありがとう。感謝するわ。
Her words surprised me. That was the one thing I didn't expect to hear.
何が？
彼女と友達になってくれてよ。日本に来てたった一人で。
They obviously were close.
たった一人で勉強していてもきっとつまらなかったと思うから。
口喧嘩ばっかりだったけどな。
あの子らしいわね。絶対に負けを認めなかったでしょう。
ああ、へりくつばっかりこねていた。ロボトミー手術してあんたの前頭葉を書き出してやるぞとかよく言われたし。
Aw, it's so sweet, like them just having like this moment where they can just talk about their friend who's no longer with them and like just bond over that. Lobotomy is a method of treating mental illness by performing surgery on the brain. A small hole is opened in the skull and a long knife is used to remove the frontal lobe. In some cases, this was sufficient to cure the illness, and the inventor was even given the Nobel Prize for his work. However, due to the serious psychological side effects and damage to the personality caused by the loss of the frontal lobe, lobotomies were banned worldwide in the 1970s.
まさかそんなこと。クリスなら言いそうね。
だろ？ちゃんと後輩の教育をしておいてほしかった。
Yeah, that must be so lonely too. With Rintaro is he's dealing with, losing her, and yet almost nobody would remember her or remember anything that happened.
その点に関しては認めるわ。
Wait, wouldn't he be the only one? Because he's got Oh, I'm trying to think. He's got the reading Steiner, right? So in this world line, would Daru, would Mayuri, would they remember? Because Suzuha went back. She went back to her time, so I'm assuming that like nobody but Rintaro remembers Kurisu. So he must have been so lonely that he's like grieving, and he has nobody to talk to about it. She smiled, or so I thought, and then all of a sudden she started to cry.
どうした?
I didn't have any better idea, so I grabbed my handkerchief. She didn't seem to know why she was crying herself, and neither did I. Had I said something during the conversation that set her off?
大丈夫か?
平気よ、ごめんなさい。
She didn't take my handkerchief. Instead, she took a tissue out of her pocket and wiped her eyes.
勇敢なる大佐のアインシュタイン。
え?
I turned around and saw Dr. Leskinen smiling and quickly striding towards me. Well, looks like we don't need Maho to introduce us. He grabbed my hand as he got closer. The handshake was incredibly forceful, and his hands were as big as a bear's paws. No, not just his hands. Standing in front of me, he looked even bigger than he had during the lecture. And pretty tall, but he was at least a head taller than me.
教授、俺、その...
Uh-oh. It was all so sudden I couldn't even think of an introduction. And wait, did he just speak in Japanese?
しかし、私の助手を泣かせてしまったのは見過ごせないね。
いや、これは...
違います教授、私が勝手に。彼は関係ないですから。
Maho and I both denied it as much as we could. But I didn't know why Maho was crying, so I couldn't come up with any excuses. I just started to panic even more.
つまりその...
クリスです。彼とクリスの話をしていたら、いろいろ感情が溢れてしまって。
クリス? 君はクリスの友人?
Oh, that's right, Chris, right? Isn't that... Did he call her? He called her Chris or something like that as a nickname. Something like that.
それは... はい。
岡部倫太郎さん、学生だそうです。
Maho introduced me. Dr. Leskinen had a gentle expression on his face as he gave me a slow hug. I guess this thing about... Like, the name Dr. Leskinen, right? To me, like, it seems almost Russian. But whether he's American or what, it's just, like, probably just much more about, like, let's... More touchy-feely, right? Like, more open and like, let me give you a handshake, let me give you a hug, even though we just met each other. I felt like I was going to suffocate in his massive arms. Somehow I could tell it was his way of remembering Kurisu.
そうですか。そういうことなら、マホ。
はい？
ミスター・オカーベに合わせてあげたらどうかな、彼女。
Oh, what?
まさか、アマデウスを。
Oh shit! They've got an AI of Kirisu! Oh my goodness. Oh, I could see, like, Rintaro, is he gonna become, like, all obsessed with her and just talk to her all the time and just go deeper into, like, that's his coping mechanism? That's, ooh, there. And then also the fact that this Amadeus system is, like, she can lie, she can not answer certain questions. It would be, like, the real thing. Oh, I could see this being a problem. But I guess it's the game's way, being like, hey, Kirisu's dead, but you still get to talk to her in a way.
ここで彼に出会った偶然、その幸運を大切にしたいじゃないか。日本にいる間、彼にテスターになってもらってもいいよ。
Oh no. He's gonna have... Oh no, he's gonna just have an AI Kurisu to talk to all the time. I could see him becoming obsessive about that.
クリスの友人ならば、部外者ではない。そうだろう?
What were they talking about? I had no idea, but this was my chance to build a relationship with Dr. Leskinen. I didn't want to blow it.
俺、ぜひお手伝いしたいです。
Nice!
He patted me on the shoulders and smiled. It was an innocent smile, like a child's.
じゃあ、詳細はマホに聞いて。よろしく。
Another scientist was calling him, so he wandered away. Maho was shaking her head in disbelief.
アマデウスに合わせるとかテスターとか一体何の話なんだ。
コンベンションでやったデモンストレーション。アマデウスは私の記憶を使っていたんだけれど、アマデウスのデータとしてもう一人分研究者の記憶が保存してあるのよ。
Another researcher's memories. What did that mean? When I finally figured it out from Dr. Leskinen and Maho's conversation, my heart started pounding.
まさかあいつなのか。
そう。アマデウスの中にはマキセ・クリスの記憶が保存されているわ。8ヶ月前のクリスだけれどね。
Oh, so it's before she ever met him. So it's like he's going to be meeting her for the first time in AI form. Several days passed after the ATF party. 10 minutes from Ikebukuro via the express train, and 10 minutes by bus from a station called Wako City in Saitama. The office I was looking for was on the second floor of a building right next to Riken. He probably, I wonder if he just abandoned the future lab, and he doesn't seem like he's got his heart put into it, so... Global brain science comprehend... Oh, I thought like based on the instructions, I thought that was his little office. The Global Brain Science Comprehensive Research Organization Japanese Office Prep Building, or room. God damn it. Why is everything so long? That was what the plate on the door said. To get in, you needed 3 types of special keys, plus a security card.
ここは
各国の脳科学研究者が連携をして新しい機構を作る予定なの。私たちの研究所が主導してね。
She led me inside. The office must have been newly rented. Most of the desks were still empty, showing no signs of having ever been used. Alright, let's check our emails. Oh, there's Ferris. The mysterious Suketos have at last appeared in Akihabara. Nya! Boah? I love we just respond with just pictures. You haven't heard of the ancient urban legends of Akihabara, Nya? I know about a few of them, but the Suketos are new to me. If a group of 3 people sits in the back seat of a certain maid cafe, they appear. Or so they say, Nya. Danger. Oh my god. No one ever knew which maid cafe it was. Until now, Nya. It's Maid Queen, Nya. Danger. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, Nya. They just join your game in the middle of a raid and kill steal all the mobs, Nya. Hang on a second. Amazing. Oh, Ferris. There wasn't even a whiteboard, which made the room look even more empty. There wasn't a lot of natural light. Maybe the windows were on the north side? The only illumination was from the overhead fluorescent lights. The room felt very cold.
ここはあくまでも準備室だから。
No one was sitting at any of the desks, but 2 of them had stuff on them. One of them was a mess filled with notes, calculators, coffee cups, and supplement bottles. That was the one Maho sat down at. Which meant the one that was neatly organized must belong to Dr. Leskinen, right?
教授は
今日はオフ。
Well, it was Sunday.
君も
ええ。そうじゃなかったら昼過ぎまで寝ていられるわけないでしょ。
That's true. When I'd gone to pick her up from her hotel in Wako City, she'd come out of the room half asleep. This was the day that I was to meet Amadeus Kurisu. Maho had gone over the basics of being a tester on the way here. Essentially, Amadeus needed sample data for conversations, and they were going to give me an environment where I could talk to it at any time, 24 hours a day. She didn't give me any details beyond that, though. I wonder if, the choices I make are going to be maybe, the conversations I have with Kurisu. The choices that I make when talking to her. Maybe that's going to be, a big part of this. It seems like that's going to be maybe a big part of this, because, with Steins Gate, it's time travel. With this, it's like the AI thing, so it seems like this might be a big part of the gameplay. So I'll be able to talk to Amadeus Kurisu 24 hours a day, huh? Maybe we could extrapolate from Kurisu, the Amadeus one, about how to use the time machine again, or to get onto the Steins Gate timeline and be able to save her through using her AI. Maho nodded and gave me a glance.
あいつと呼んだわよね、今。
え、ああ。
私が思っているよりもずっと親しかったのね、あなたたち。
あ
Maybe my silence was an answer in itself. Maho's response was uncharacteristically hesitant. Oh, Luca. Okabe, may I have a moment of your time? I'm meeting someone right now. Is it important? Not today. I'll say is important. No, it's not that important. Can it wait then? Alright, I'll contact you later. Sorry. No, please don't worry about it. Aww.
だとしたら会うのはやめた方がいいかもしれない。
Right, maybe she's gonna be like, this is gonna open some wounds. You might get way too attached to this.
どうしてだ。
相手が親しい人であればあるほどあのシステムは残酷だと思うから。
大丈夫だ。
分かった。もう言わない。その代わり一つ覚えておいて。ロードする記憶はクリスが最後に更新をした3月のデータをベースにしたものよ。だから3月以降、例えば彼女が日本に留学していた時のことを聞いても全く通じない。
Yeah, so basically all the time we spent together, well, we spent like no time together. That's right, isn't it?
それに3月から今日までの間に私や教授が何度も起動してしまっているから、その度にクリスは、アマデウスの方のクリスね。彼女は元のクリスとは違う記憶を蓄積しているわ。私たちが聞かせた話、ネットで検索した情報、新しく会話を交わした人たち、そういったものをね。つまりこれから会うのはあなたの友人だったマキセ・クリスではないということ。このシステムの問題点の一つなんだけれど、往々にしてこちら側、つまり人間の方が混乱してしまうのよ。まるで本当のクリスと今この瞬間にチャットでもしているような錯覚に陥るから。
So don't get reality and fantasy mixed up, I guess.
共有できていない記憶の齟齬に関してこちらの脳がついていけなくなってしまうのね。
Memories that aren't shared. Now that there's a feeling I knew well. Reading Steiner. It was a power only I possessed, which made my memories different than those of the people around me. He's like, I have a lot of experience with this, don't worry about it.
案内してくれ。
Maho gave me a slight nod.
こっちよ。
She led me to the back of the room. There was a booth separated by a thick partition. To get inside the booth, you needed a different card key than the one used to get into the room, as well as a security code.
ずいぶん厳重なんだな。
今の時代、産業スパイが一番恐ろしいの。
She entered the security code and unlocked the door.
どうぞ。
The room was about 2.5 meters per side. At one end was a white desk, and above it was a PC with a built-in 30-inch screen monitor.
少しだけ後ろに座っていて。
There was a small sofa that let you sit behind the user and see what was happening on the screen. I sat there. Maho powered on the PC and began to type. A second later, the words Amadeus system appeared on screen. I saw her put the ID in. Salary. Salary? That's probably not how you pronounce it. Salieri? 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 I'm guessing because Antonio Salieri. An Italian composer who lived in the same time as Mozart. He was court composer at Vienna for many years and trained such famous composers as Beethoven, Schubert, and Liszt. Okay, and like Amadeus was also a composer, right? So like that's the theme we're going with. Salieri and Amadeus, huh? Amadeus is Latin for beloved of God and the middle name of the Austrian composer Mozart. There is also a play and movie about Mozart of the same name. Was there some meaning to that? Come to think of it, in the famous movie Amadeus, there was a character who was spiteful and jealous of Mozart's incredible talents, but who, in the bottom of his heart, admired him more than anyone else. Okay, Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, an Austrian composer. Along with Haydn and Beethoven, he is one of the most famous classical composers. He began to write songs at the age of 5 and left us over 600 masterpieces. In the modern era, he's often referred to as a genius, and there are many stories about him. That character's name was Salieri. Oh, is that maybe because that's her name, right? That's her user ID. So I wonder if it's a whole thing where it's like, maybe does she have like a similar... I might be reading into this because she really seemed to admire and like, Makise. But maybe there was like a tinge of jealousy, but from the bottom of her heart, she admired her. Who knows? I might just be reading it too much into it. Maho moved her body to hide her hands. I looked away. She finished logging into the system, and a simple bare command prompt appeared on screen. Maho entered several commands at the prompt. She turned off the monitor. Then she spun around to face me. I suddenly realized I was clenching my fists. How long had I been doing that? My hands were sweating, and there was a red spot at the base of my thumb where my nails had dug in. Was I more nervous than I realized? For a second, the old joke in me was about to come back. I quickly changed the subject. Dr. P, like a Dr. Pepper. Is that what Kurisu drank, or was that Daru's thing? Or is that... Oh, that was Rintaro's thing, right? Didn't he drink a lot of those? The abbreviation for a type of carbonated beverage first served in America during the 1800s. At present, it is only available in eastern Japan and some other small areas. It has a very unique taste, and its secret recipe is a combination of over 20 flavors. I heard a small sound from the back of her throat. I guessed she was laughing. Normally, I'd find that irritating, but strangely, coming from the girl in front of me... No, she was a grown woman, actually. I didn't. Maho was a very strong-willed with a prickliness and short temper unique to scientists. She always seemed to be a little upset about something. Maybe he's like, you lab girls, why do I find you so attractive? But maybe she wasn't that bad. Oh, I see. She, Maho, she's a lot like Kurisu. Oh no. Is he gonna like blur the lines between Kurisu and her and maybe start to fall for her as like a replacement? When I first met Kirisu, she was like that. Arrogant, rude, never willing to change her mind, stubborn, hard-headed, and always ready to confront you with raised eyebrows whenever you'd said something she didn't like. I truly thought I would never see a more unlikable woman. But despite my first impressions, on the inside she turned out to be fragile, easily hurt, so kind, and so lovable. I suddenly heard a girl's voice from the speaker. Oh shit. I found myself jumping off the sofa. I knew this voice. I couldn't forget it. I could never. Maho turned on the monitor. The girl I'd never forgotten appeared on the screen. Maybe it was based off her appearance at the brain science lab, because she was wearing a white lab coat. The PC's camera turned toward me on its own. Maho was introducing me, but I didn't hear anything she was saying. I simply stared, entranced. He's gonna fall in love with an AI. I wanted to reach out my hands. I wanted to touch her. She was right there.
Okabe Rintaro さん。はじめまして。Makise クリスです。どうぞよろしく。
All right, guys, that is going to do it for part 1 of Steins Gate Zero. Strong start. We're jumping right into, the aftermath of everything that happened. So it seems like, yes, we are on the beta timeline. We're following the events of when he didn't manage to save Kurisu. And interesting that we're dealing with AI. It seems to be that's the focus of this, is the AI of like the technology, and how's Rintaro going to deal with like the ghost of his past coming back to him. I feel like there's a lot of interesting things that the story the different directions this can go. Like maybe he's going to become obsessed with her. Maybe the lines will be blurred. Because we know with the time leaping, he began to lose himself in that. Maybe that's going to be the same thing here. And dealing with both the, with the original Steins Gate, dealing with time travel and the consequences of that, and now this with AI. And this, to me, I feel like this is more relatable, because time travel seems like such an out there thing that could probably never happen, but AI is a thing that is not just possible, but it is happening like right now in our world, and we're seeing it get more realistic and better just year by year, and this could be a possible thing. Like, it's kind of scary to think about, so I really like the idea of this. This is very intriguing. And in the intro, there seem to be some new characters that we have yet to meet, but I'm liking it so far. I'm very interested in where the story is going to go from here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this this episode. Hopefully you're looking forward to the rest of the Let's Play. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned next time for part 2. Until then, bye. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Emily Hornsby, Zorn Ether, Revealing Storm, Asborn Kennedy, iCognito, Harry Gazif, and Jared Fan.